Good evening. It's 6:32, and I'm Eileen Natoli, and I'm going to open up the meeting for the closed session special meeting. I'm going to take roll call. Director Deppie?
Here.
Vice President Hassai?
Here.
Director Sharis-Watt?
Here.
Okay, and Director Madavi is not here, but I assume he'll join at some point. We will now, are there any public comments? Seeing none, we will adjourn to closed session. Thank you. Director Madavi?
Here.
Okay.
Thank you, President Natoli. Thank you. You can see me. How's that? Okay. My comment is directed at the subject of what you're going to do in closed session, what you're going to consider in closed session. I notice that it concerns the matter of Officer Foley and General Manager Tony Constantouris. For a number of years, I served as a settlement judge for Monday morning settlements in the Superior Court in San Francisco at the pleasure of the presiding judge. People come in and they are pretty much loaded for bear because it's the day of trial that this occurs, that they have an opportunity because there aren't courtrooms ready to go down the hall and talk to a settlement judge, which basically turns into a mediation session. I would love it, and the people of this community would love it, if you would strongly consider influencing the parties to mediate the conflict. About 75% of the cases that I would consider were settled on the day of trial when everybody's loaded for bear. We're a small community. We need for our police force and our management to work together. I think this can be ironed out in the hands of a skilled mediator, and I hope that you will push for this and urge the parties to do this. This is what we need. We need Kensington to pull together and put these matters aside. So thank you very much for your time.
And now we'll adjourn to closed session. Thank you.
Let's move that flag.
This is our last meeting before the community center renovations. Our next meeting will be across the street at Arlington Church. So thanks to Directors Sharis-Watt and Hassai. We'll have a completely different community center when we return to this building. I'm going to take roll call. Director Madavi?
Here. Director
Deppie?
Here.
Director Sharis-Watt?
Here.
Director Hassai?
Here.
And I'm Eileen Natoli, and I'm here as well. And the guide dog of the meeting is Lila, sitting with our General Counsel. All right. We have a very special event tonight, which is Chief Hull will swear in our new officer, Officer Tomiko Fedor. Please.
Can everyone hear me? Can you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Tomiko Fedor,
I, Tomiko Fodor,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution
that I will support and defend the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the Constitution
and allegiance to the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which
discharge the duties upon which
I am about to enter.
I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Who do you want to pin?
My boyfriend, Jeremy Scott.
What's his name?
Jeremy Scott.
Jeremy, could you step up, please?
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the other members of the police department for showing up. Also, I would like to introduce you to her father, Detective Fodor with the Pinole Police Department.
How about a father-daughter picture, no? Yeah, let's have a father-daughter picture. David. And I understand this is third generation, so I think we need her grandfather to stand too. He's also a former police officer, is that correct? Wow, I think we need a picture of that.
I'd like to make a quick comment that Officer Fodor's grandfather was instrumental or one of the principal characters in capturing Charles Manson. So.
Oh.
Well, thank you very much. And we will now begin with public comments. Oh, thank you.
Hi, Linda Lipscomb. Thank you, members of the board. I would like to urge you, rather than carrying forward with any more nonsense regarding continuing this endless trip with Matrix, that you analyze the data that you have, come to a conclusion, and staff up the force that we have and install a permanent chief, whether it be our interim chief or another chief, rather than expend any more money to do an RFP to a single entity, as no other entity has shown any interest in receiving an RFP from us, and see how it goes when you take the suggestions of Matrix, some of which I think are very well taken, and improve our force. This is a wonderful night. We have a new officer joining, and I think it would go a long way to stopping the unevenness and upheaval that the last couple of years have seen. Thank you.
Mabry Benson. I attended the fire board meeting last night and heard again the presentation that they gave to the last police board meeting. It is time, past time actually, to work seriously with the fire department on the serious issue of replacing the public safety building. You both have been dragging your feet on dealing with the issue. This problem is not just theirs, it is just as much a matter for you as for them. There is no nice, easy solution that will make everyone happy. Community education and input will be necessary so all understand the rocks, literally, and not so hard places. That doesn't sound right. Okay, well, not so hard places. Actually, the hard places we are encountering, I mean, not so hard in terms of maybe soft soil. So we can get folks to accept whichever solution is decided upon. I would like to see a joint action committee between police and fire with a timetable of actions needed to get the replacement of the public safety building effected, and with regular reports of action on this timetable. Thank you.
Thank you. And Directors Deppie and Sheriff Watt are the two directors that are to work with Director Nagel and Director Dahmer.
Okay, but joint action with a timetable of, work up a timetable of what list of what needs to be done, a timetable for doing it, and reports on the whole process. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm glad that we have just the family here today, not the new folks. I said I'm glad that we have perhaps not the new folks here right now, because I want to talk about something that happened a couple of weeks ago at the Matrix meeting, and I have seen on the agenda that you're talking about the restraining order, the temporary restraining order. It was an ugly event at the end of that meeting. And it's the kind of thing that you see in organizations that lack leadership, permanent leadership. People feel they have no backup. And you can't have people policing who feel they have no backup. Whether that's a partner in a police car or supervision, there are issues that were raised in the Matrix report that are important for us to be addressing. I'm not going to mention any names in terms of the board. I had a brief conversation with one of you, and I asked about holding back on the RFP, and the comment that was made was, after what happened, are you kidding? So there's something very, very central about this contracting out that is very common across the United States. And there is the notion that contracting out solves the disciplinary problems. This is, and I've said it many times, it's a governance issue. It's what we expect, how we develop standards, and how we hold people accountable. And there really, I have been in and out of public and private settings, and I think there are problems in every single one of them. But if we don't do that, then we have a problem. And I think that is a piece of the problem that we're facing right now. It's really how we oversee, how the board oversees the general manager and the chief of police, and how we oversee the finances. All of that is really part of the governance structure. It is very easy, and I'm not up here to point fingers. It is a very, very easy thing in a situation like this to have a he said and she said and he said. And it's ugly. It's ugly. It's ugly when it happens in a marriage. It's ugly when it happens in a partnership of any kind. And it's the kind of thing where first we want to see a mediation take place. And I think that there are many of us in this community who, rather than see a kind of tearing apart where you've been working hard, Tony, and we have people on the police force, including Officer Foley, who are beloved in the community. who have done a tremendous amount of good work. And by the way, I do not for a minute condone what happened at that meeting. I mean, it was very, very unfortunate on all sides. And so that, I am really appealing to you as the governance board, where boards really can play a role that is a kind of buffering down of this kind of anger. There was anger on both sides. And I beseech you to handle this in a way that allows for that kind of mediation to take place, so that we are not yet again escalating into legal suits, expenses, and whatnot. That, for me, is really the role of the board. It is a governance issue first. Thank you.
My name's Andrew Gutierrez. We cannot forget what has happened over the past 20 years with this police department. And to expect that things are going to change when every 2 years there's a possibility that the board itself changes and the capacity to carry out these wonderful things of managing a police force may change radically. So what we need is something that's more in keeping with what our needs are. To immediately say, stop all future investigation, it can best be described as nonsense. We've gone down this road. We've made an investment in it. We have recommendations that are coming out. And we need to find out what's viable for us. What's not viable for us is a force that has all the problems of structure of scale. We don't have the capacity to have detectives, to have good data management, to have all of the things that are required of a modern police force. And if for no other reason, that would be important. But in addition, the history of a small force that we have had has been horrible. And what's to change? Same characters are there. The same notions of how to operate in this community are there. And the people who have run this community for the past 20 years are still here. So what's going to change? So I say, proceed with the RFP to find out what the options are. Obviously, everybody is totally dissatisfied with the fire department because, I don't know, it seems to me they're doing a hell of a good job. And they come from El Cerrito. So why not find out if we can't get a reasonably good deal with police from El Cerrito, for example, through an RFP, to find out what is possible, and not to close our eyes and say, back to the future. Let's move forward. Let's be responsible, and let's stop the petty nonsense that occurs at these meetings all too often, where we spend hours talking about crossing the I's, dotting the I's and crossing the T's. So let's move forward. Let's be responsible. The RFP is the only way to go. It's a way of finding out a solid base of information. Adelante.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I don't know whether to say I'm Merrill Natchez or Merrill Rafferty, but anyway, I'm both. I just worked for 27 years as Merrill Natchez. Now I'm not working, so I guess I'm Merrill Rafferty. But anyway, here I am, despite my aversion to meetings, to talk to you because I feel like the issue about the police is not whether or not to issue an RFP. It's about a town divided. And if you issue the RFP, all that does is inflame the many, many citizens who are here at the Matrix meeting who feel that we need to keep our police independent. So I think that you need to proceed in a way that is conciliatory and not in a way that is going to further divide the town. We have a huge divide here in how people feel about the police. Many, many people love the police, as the survey showed. Many people, as you heard, feel like the police are terrible. But outsourcing the police to El Cerrito, and if you look at the fire board costs and the way they have escalated over time, it's absurd. We need to find a way to have a discussion where people feel that they're heard, where you as a board are listening and being responsive and not simply acting without listening to the population. So that's, I think, what Johanna was saying about governance. That's your role, to help us come together as a community and not further inflame the situation. Don't use foolish incidents that happen because people are upset, but try to get to the root cause of why people are so upset, and let's heal that, and then we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there any other public comments? Okay, well, we can get on to the business. Okay. General manager report?
Thank you, Madam President. This report just updates several projects that are ongoing. First of all, on the police study and the matrix report, we are planning to bring that report to the board at your next meeting on April 25th and have recommendations and consider options for the board at that time. On the CLETS evaluation, where there has been alleged improper access, we're nearing completion of this study and probably should have the results in the next couple of weeks. The audit, the financial portion of the audit has been completed. The management discussion is what I'm working on right now. There are some differences this year, basically with the Government Accounting and Standards Board requirements. They've added a particularly important new requirement on showing retiree health that changes the numbers significantly. So it needs a little more review, but we are planning to bring it to the Finance Committee on Thursday, May 2nd. The Policy and Procedures Manual, we were targeting bringing it to the board in May, but we're maybe getting a little optimistic and hope and could bring it at the next meeting, at least a portion of it at our next meeting on April 25th. So we'll see. It might be that we bring one or two of the sections forward at that time and then schedule the others at a later time. And then finally, the budget, our normal budget process. So we will have the proposed budget in May and then bring it to the board for adoption in June.
Can I ask him a question? What's the status of the bringing our accounting system into maybe the 20th or even the 21st century?
Sorry, bringing the what?
The accounting system.
Well, I'm planning to discuss this with our accountant as we review the audit. So we did hire somebody to review it, and unfortunately that person did not work out, and that was a setback to the process. So we're looking possibly at local agencies rather than agencies that come from Sacramento. So it's still still something we're planning to do, as these other projects have taken priority for the immediate future, however, so.
I have a question about Pletz. Who is doing the investigation?
It's Mr. Jordan.
Is that, and what is his official status? Is he an investigator? Is he?
He's a retired police chief,
Okay. Jordan?
Jordan.
I do want to ask Merle Rafferty, you did mention that there have been escalations in the costs of the fire department. Did I hear you correctly? Yes. Could you please tell us what escalations you're talking about?
I think this is a discussion that it's not part of our business right now, so thank you. Sorry. Okay. All right.
Hello again, everyone.
Addressed to the board.
I just wanted to make a couple of quick comments. I met this morning with the Emergency Services Division, who are going to have a role in the evacuation plan that both Kensington and the two governmental agencies in El Cerrito are working on. The other aspect that I wanted to bring up is that in October of this year, they're going to be hosting a meeting, and they will have people who experience both the Sonoma fire and the Butte County fire, giving statements and taking questions from the audience. So if anyone has an interest in that, which was my motivation for going and pulling them into what we're currently doing now. So, and the other quick statement I have, congratulations to Officer Fodor. She went through the process. She's hired, and we currently have 5 more individuals in the background process. So as that moves forward, hopefully we will continue to be able to bring some more officers on board. Thank you.
Excuse me, Chief Hull, do you have a place and time and date for that meeting yet?
It's October 3rd, if I recall. I don't know where the meeting is. They were in the planning stages, so there are other changes that were made to their agenda. So once they get that complete, we'll release it out.
Thank you.
So.
Are there any board comments?
Just a quick one. I've been following up on some of the matrix numbers and some historical context, and so I should have a lot of that to include in the board packet next time. The board might find it very elucidating.
Yeah, we had tentatively planned a Finance Committee meeting on April 16th, but because we're still waiting on the financial audit, we've pushed that to May 2nd, as General Manager Constantouris had mentioned. That'll be Thursday, May 2nd at 3 o'clock. And we'll be meeting in the church, starting with our next meeting. I want to report out from closed session, by the way, that we gave direction to our council on both matters in closed session. Right, and now we begin the new business and the community center renovations. Director Hassai, can you walk us through?
Well, the staff report, I think General Manager can walk through first.
This item is in regards to awarding a contract to the low bidder for the seismic upgrade and building alterations portion of the community center. These were previously discussed at the last 2 board meetings on March 14 and March 28, and a low bidder was identified as Eagle Builders for a bid of $1,481,200. At that meeting, a number of bid alternates were discussed to possibly add to the bid, and they're included in the letter provided by Glass and Associates. These bid alternates were approved by the board at that meeting, bringing the total contract award to $1,594,200. So our recommendation is to award the contract for the seismic upgrades and building alterations, including the bid alternates that were approved for the Kensington Community Center to Eagle Builders for a total of $1,594,200, and authorize the general manager to sign a contract with Eagle Builders, subject to the review and approval of the general counsel.
Are there any public comments on the seismic contract? Could you go to
Hello, Gail Feldman. Would you be able to tell us a little bit more about Eagle Builders and just what their experience is in building or doing a project such as this?
I cannot. I had no role in choosing the builder, and the builder was qualified and a responsible bidder judged by the architectural firm, and the contract spelled out in very great detail what they had to be able to do, all the subcontractors they would use, the documents are online, and we were obligated to go with the lowest bidder.
Okay.
Mostly a question. Does anyone know what the degree of seismic safety the building was reinforced for? Was that a
Yes.
program requirement?
Do you mean when it was built?
No, now.
Oh, now, for the
For
renovation?
the latest contract, is there any seismic improvement?
Yes.
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 There is, so
It's
do
to,
you know to what kind of
Yes, to life safety.
life safety?
Life safety,
Thank you.
yes.
Good evening. Do we know who's going to supervise the daily operation of this remodel? We do have someone? Okay, good.
Whom exactly?
Farhat Dow with the architectural firm who lives in Kensington will be able to stop by daily.
Does she have experience monitoring construction?
Yes.
Okay.
For the cost of her coming by,
We don't have a cost for that yet.
that is part of the contract.
Do you mean the general
Glass Associ-
contractor is
No, no,
going to
Glass
supervise?
Glass Associates contract.
Glass told us that they would not supervise.
They will be here stopping by every day.
They told us they would not supervise. I was at the meeting, and they said, we do not supervise the project.
Well, the general contractor does that. And they
The
meet
general
with the general
contractor
contractor.
supervises himself.
And the architect supervises the general contractor by going over the plans every day and answering any questions or problems.
It's not going to work.
Okay.
Would you,
Are there any other comments or questions? If not,
you make a motion?
yeah, I will move that we authorize our general manager to enter into the contract with Eagle Builders for the base bid and the alternates that are identified in the glass letter, agenda packet, page 5.
I'll second it.
Okay, Director Madavi?
I'm voting present, but I actually felt I forgot to explain this last time. So I'll just really cut to the most important part of it. There was a philosophical component, but I don't think
Excuse me, could you speak a little bit slower? Thank you.
there was a philosophical component. Are you taking minutes?
No?
The vote record.
Okay, so there was a philosophical component based on constructive abstention. But actually, I realized that the reason I had been constantly like I should vote present is an ethical one. I should disclose that I do have very close family, friends, and relatives on the higher parts of the KCC's board. And also, given that there have been hundreds of thousands of dollars they have provided to this project, it's not proper for me to vote either way because that presents either a real or perceived conflict of interest.
Thank you.
I wouldn't think there would be a conflict of interest. I mean, if our attorney states that there's no conflict.
there would be a significant conflict of interest if it somehow benefited you or your family financially. That is what the law looks to for recusal under conflict of interest grounds.
And ethics also says you go beyond the law.
Well,
So what could become a perceived conflict of interest? This was in the AB 1234 training I took.
I don't think you're required to recuse yourself, let me just say that.
And I'm saying I am making a choice to recuse myself based on what could become a perceived conflict of interest in this vote.
Is the KCC a nonprofit organization?
Yes.
Okay. So there's no profit to be made by the KCC on this?
No, and they've already turned the funds over to the board. I mean, I have no conflict with your voting either way. I don't see as a board, I mean, but.
Director Deppie?
Yes.
Director Sheraswat?
Yes.
Director Hassai?
Yes.
Okay, and I will also vote yes, so that's 4 in favor and 1 present. Okay, thank you.
Now, there is another item on this agenda item, I think. Sorry, I don't have it right here.
Well, there's a separate agenda item on the abatement.
Okay, yeah, great.
Yeah. And General Manager Constanturis, can you introduce the abatement, please?
This is also a recommendation to award a contract to, for hazardous materials abatement to the low bidder, Echo and Bay Services. And this was again discussed at the May 28th meeting of the Board of Directors. And it was noted that the contractor scope did not include this work. So there were requests for proposals went out. And the whole process is summarized in the memorandum that's attached to the agenda packet from Glass & Associates. The low bidder was Echo Bay Services for an amount of $25,000 with a flooring bid alternate of $8,500, which brings it to a total of $33,500. And we're recommending approval of that contract, subject to the review and approval of the General Counsel. I wanted to note there is a third element to this, and that is we were seeking bids about replacing the floors in meeting rooms 2 and 3, and we were hopeful to get
That
bids.
is not related to abatement.
Okay.
Should, and a motion for this item should imply that it is being categorized out of our franchise fees? Is that what we're hoping to?
Yes, that has been the discussion of the board in the last several the discussion of the board in the last several meetings was that the abatement contract will be funded out of solid waste franchise fees.
Okay. Are there any comments on the abatement work or the contract?
I thought you needed to know whether you were going to do, what the bids or whatever for the meeting rooms before you could vote on whether to abate it, because you wanted the abatement to all happen at one time.
The bid alt that was accepted last week was for the main floor. The main floor is the only room that requires abatement for the floor purposes.
Those don't require.
They don't require abatement.
All right. Well, I will move that we authorize our general manager to enter into the contract for the abatement work.
I'll second it.
Okay. Director Madavi?
Present.
Okay. Director Deppie?
Yes.
Director Sheraswat?
Yes.
Director Hassai?
Yes.
And I will also vote yes. So that's 4 votes in favor and 1 present. Thank you. Director Hassai, do you want to discuss the possibility of doing meetings room 2 and 3?
Yes, so.
1 and 2, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, meetings room 1 and 2. So in the discussion of the bid alts, the replacement of the meeting room 3 was approved, and that leads to the questions of meetings room 1 and 2 for 2 reasons. One is just aesthetics. We will then have a mishmash of floorings if we do not do meetings room 1 and 2. And also meeting room 1, I don't know why this hadn't been noted before. One reason meeting room 3 is being replaced is it has a seam down the room. It's a tripping hazard and it's a crack. And the same thing has actually happened in meeting room 1. There is a seam and a crack and a bubbling of the floor. So because we've approved, we could not do anything to put these on the agenda or to change the contract before us. Once we had received the contract, we were unable to modify it. Now that we've approved it, we are able to do a modification, and I'm recommending that we replace the floors in meetings room 1 and 2 as well, and that we make that change now as opposed to later when it will be a more costly change order. And we don't have an estimate yet, but the floor is, we were going with the estimate of 13.5, which is what the meeting room 3 floor would be. And the architect pointed out that she's concerned that there was a specific item related to meeting room 3 that she has not seen specified and is concerned that it may not be covered yet in anywhere, which is the repair of the slab. Because there is a crack in the floor, the slab actually needs repairing. So the proposal would be to authorize a change to the initial general contract for the renovation of up to $40,000, which would include 2 rooms at 13.5, up to $8,000 for the slab, and an additional $5,000 cushion. So it would be an authorization up to, or rather not to exceed, and the amount could be less. But if the board would so consider, then we could make a resolution which would then allow the change to the initial contract. And it's better to do it sooner rather than later, as planning can happen. And when when meeting room 3 is taken care of, it will require no more additional setup, and everything could be ordered at once, and it would probably potentially cost less.
I have a question. You said 8,000 for the slab. Is that just for meeting room 3, or would that be meeting rooms 1 and 3?
That's an estimate for meeting room 3. It was 5 to 8, so I just chose the higher figure to be conservative.
But then it could also be 8 for meeting room 1?
It's possible. I don't think the slab may not be as damaged. It doesn't seem as wide of a crack.
I see.
No, it's a smaller crack, and I think it wasn't maybe noted because there was furniture covering.
Yes, there was furniture covering it.
Unlike meeting room 1, which runs throughout across the floor. Well, I think this only seems sensible. This is something we can do when all the furniture is out of the building, and I think that the aesthetics and perhaps the tripping hazards would be greater if we don't do the repair.
Well, what I'm concerned about is 13.5 and 13.5 is 27. And if we add then the 8,000 to that, that brings it up to 35. And if we add the $5,000 cushion, that brings it up to 40. And that means that there's, unless the meeting room 1 could be done within that $5,000 cushion, we might need more than 40,000.
But you're including the repairs for meeting room 1 are in there. That's that 8,000.
No, that was just for meeting room, I think that was just for meeting room 3. Oh, that was just for meeting room 3. So 5 to 8 was the estimate.
Yeah.
It's true, it could be slightly more. If you want to do again, a not to exceed amount, taking the higher figures all around just to avoid another back and forth. The idea is to get this, part of the original contract, which is we're about to execute, as opposed to waiting another, month or 2. You want to make it a little higher just for safety's sake?
I think so, yeah. 45,000, I think.
Okay. So, Sarah.
Can I just ask that you identify which rooms?
Sorry.
None of us know.
Okay.
I only see 2 rooms.
Yes, sorry.
back.
Meeting room 3 is this one right back here to the right. Meeting room 2 is straight back, and meeting room 1 is to the left. You don't see it because it's through the hallway. There's another meeting room back there.
Another room where the
Yes.
corridor that has the bathroom?
Across
Across
from the
women's room.
bathrooms.
Yes.
You learn something new every day.
Originally, Bart Jones told us that the meeting rooms were painted with different colored doors. So we had the rose room and the blue room, essentially. But they've been done over, so we no longer have color identification at the rooms. So
I'm not good at speaking, but I'm fairly new here. I am concerned because all of a sudden, you're saying the Eagle Builders is $1,594. On here, it says $1,481. What's the difference? And then now we're talking about upping $45,000 to do something that was supposed to be $13,500. I do not understand how we can jump to that level without some clarification.
So this is the clarification. In the original bid, meeting room 3 was included. It was considered an alternate, and it was something the board chose to do last
So
week.
it's going to cost $35,000 to do one room.
No. If we choose to do meetings room 1 and 2, that will add the cost. It will cost we're estimating $13,500 for each room. It could be less, but we're estimating.
For each room.
Is $13,500.
It's not clear on here that that's what the situation is.
What we're talking about now is not written out. There's nothing in writing on that.
Yeah, and that's not, to me, what should be happening. It should be on the paper. You should be able to talk about it and see it beforehand. And the other thing is, this is an alternate. How many other alternates are you going to include in this?
We've accepted all the alternates, and this is a change order to the contract if we choose to proceed.
Okay, so total contract money, how much is it going to cost?
You can add the 1.4 that is already budgeted. You could add, if we choose to do meetings room 1 and 2 and take care of the slab in meeting room 3, which we really should do, is an additional 45 on the high end. It may come in less. And the abatement contract is required work as well. And the abatement contract, I don't have the number in front of me now, 33. So that's the entire
Why is
cost.
that not on here? I mean, it's very unclear to me, and I think that a lot of people here don't understand because of the way it's.
Okay.
A lot of people don't understand because it's not on here. It's all separated.
The only thing that is not in any paper are the numbers we've just talked about, which is the meeting room 3, meeting rooms 1 and 2, which are basically the same as meeting room 3, so the cost of $13,500 is.
Okay, where is it on here, the total?
Well, we're not seeking to be confusing, but this has been actually 4 years' work, and we've had several meetings on the different
I have been to a lot of the meetings, but I still have never seen
No, we're
on
not trying to
paper
be.
what it's going to cost us, because you've got the contract, I'm sorry, people, the contract, then you've got all the abatements, and it's all separate, and there's no total anywhere.
Okay, we will total it up for you in a moment, if you just give me a chance.
Yeah, I'd like to second that concern just as an idle watcher, that having to manually go through, punch these things into Excel sheets seems a bit unfair to everyone if we're trying to give the public a chance to comment, and the fact we're now doing oral reports of math and numbers here.
The glass memo lays things out quite clearly. So the glass memo has the base contract at 1.481, and the bid alts are done separately because that was required and accepted and expected by the community because they wanted to know what each separate element cost. So unfortunately, the total of 1.594, I'm not sure why that's not clear, the above combined basic scope and bid alternate bids is 1.594. So that is the first contract we approved.
Okay, I wasn't listening just then. So the contract was 1594.
1,594,200. That is the contract that includes all of the base work, plus the bid alts that were accepted by the board and approved by the board last meeting.
And all alternates included in that?
Yes.
And now we're going to add $45,000 to it? Okay.
Correct.
I just want, I was told I need to give my name, Ellen Vaughn, from Kensington.
Thank you. And then the abatement work is a separate contract, and that abatement contract, I think, is pretty clear as well.
That's
And it
the
also-
1549.
No.
No, the abatement is separate,
The
and that was
abatement
the
was
separate
for the
contract that
25
we,
Abatement is for removal of the asbestos in the building. We did not, when we approved the contract at the last meeting, or moved towards approval of the bid alternates, we did not yet have quotes for abatement. So
we did, but the abatement contract is a separate contract. It just has to be considered separately because it's a separate contract.
And that's which ones? That's
$33,500. It's on agenda page 11.
Okay, I didn't have this paper, so anyway, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion that we approve,
We have one more person.
Just so that everybody's really clear on the person who pays the bills. So I want to be really, really, really clear about the total amount of everything. So in terms of contract work that's going to be done, we have $1.594 million for the base contract plus the bid alternates, correct?
Correct.
Okay, then $45,000 for the flooring to be done in the various rooms.
That has
That's
not
not
been
been
moved yet. We have not agreed to that.
I'm just trying to get a sense of the scope of.
Yes, but that has not been agreed
I
to.
understand, I understand, I understand.
And the contract will then be changed to reflect the new numbers, should that happen.
I'm not
It'll be
trying to be
changed.
combative, I'm just trying to understand.
I'm not being combative either.
Okay, so then $33,500 for the abatement work,
Correct.
and then there's the Glass Associates contract, which was $150,000?
148,700, plus we approved additional bills for that, but that should all be managed by the general manager and will be covered.
And the capital.
We can certainly
The
do
Glass
it.
Associates contract is separate from the
I
capital.
understand, I'm trying to understand the scope of the project.
Okay,
Well, we're happy to provide a document that breaks everything down.
May I-
I
already
mean,
have
if you're
done-
looking
we've already
for,
done that. I mean, that was in the last meeting packet.
I
It's
understand,
very
I'm
clear.
trying to understand the total, so that when the bills come to me, I understand what's been approved. So then, there are also the permits?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know, and thank you.
It's all better laid out in the documents that Bill Zanoni did last week, the last meeting.
Okay.
It's better laid out there.
Thank you, I'm just
yeah, we should
trying to
repeat those, and we can,
understand
but those are on
that
our
was the
website.
updates, and so
I
thank
don't
you.
think the PowerPoints are not on the website, I think,
Oh,
or
do
have
you
they
think
been
they-
put up yet?
Okay.
Because I'd asked a while ago, and that sort of got all shuffled aside.
Wait, he didn't do the PowerPoint, though, he just gave us,
Yeah, but still, he gave it to the board, should have gone on the website.
it's part of the agenda.
I have a question and then I have a comment, but perhaps you could just clarify. So as far as all the changes that you're discussing tonight, are those then part of your financing plan? Are they already included in the amount that you had already planned to finance?
Do you want to answer? The financing for the 1.481, oh, excuse me, the 1.5, when it's finalized. The 1.594200, yes, that's part of our financing plan. The part of the seismic, I'm sorry, not the seismic, the abatement is also part of our financing. The second level of alternates that we're talking about, we last meeting approved an extra $250,000, so which had a cushion in it. So we know that we could go forward with that. We also didn't approve some bid alternates at the last meeting. We declined to add some additional things, the screen for $57,000.
Sign.
The sign for $27,000. So we have room in our budget. We also have a 15% contingency.
Yeah, I knew
within
about the
yeah.
contingency, but you know that there are going to be change orders.
No,
as you go,
absolutely,
'cause
no.
you-
I'm not trying to, we're not trying to burn through the
So this 200,000,
250.
that's 250,000, that's being part of your financing package with the CSDA?
That is our site, yeah.
So I'm just going to make a comment. I personally feel that this project became something different than what you guys committed to originally. And I'm not, the abatement issues and all that, certainly would be expected. But some of the bid alternatives, I'm not sure I really understand why we're financing those, because I'm not sure that they're necessary to the safety of the building. And no one came forward to fund them. And they're specifically for certain organizations that use the building. So as a taxpayer, I'm paying for the financing that you're doing through CSDA, as well as the money you're taking out of your reserve. And I'm also aware that you have major expenses coming up for your police department. So it makes me very uncomfortable to hear this continuing adding on and this, well, we have the money to finance it, and we're going to finance it through this deal with CSDA that's going to cost us not a lot of money in the big scheme of things. But nonetheless, it just feels like we keep adding on, and I think you need to pull back on some of these bid alternatives. I mean, you have to do the floor, obviously, but maybe there's some other things you're just going to have to not be able to do unless you can raise the money. And so I'm just stating my personal opinion about it, and I know that there are probably other people who feel a little concerned about this project that was supposed to be just basic safety that, now has all the bells and whistles, of a much bigger project that has, nice design. And I mean, I'm really glad that you were able to get this lower bid that, was within your budget. But again, it's not the project, I think, that we originally were talking about.
I would just like to respond a little bit to that. I don't think you were at last meeting, and as Rachel said, we did not take every bid alternate that was proposed. We took the most practical and the things that made sense to do now. So to do a floor or a ceiling and later would not make a lot of sense. You'd have to close the building again. The room 3 is frankly, it was an alternate, but it is a safety issue. The floor is cracked. It's a tripping hazard. It should have been done. It shouldn't have really necessarily been an alternate, but it was made an alternate. The storage is actually a functional issue. Again, the finance plan is very conservative. It's an extremely good rate. I thought of it as preserving our flexibility to make those investments in the police department, and borrowing $250 at 3.8% rate gave us, I think, an interest payment for the 5 years of maybe 36, maybe even less. I can't remember now because there's a lot of numbers running around. But it's also really being able to have $500,000 at your disposal for that, because you preserve your $250 in the reserve. We could have funded the entire project out of reserve and fairly comfortably, frankly. And we chose not to do that for a variety of reasons. And we are looking at, the Finance Committee is looking at putting together a pension fund that would allow us to earn interest on our money, which we aren't able to do right now. So there's a lot of thought that went into this, and I think we were really listening to the community, maybe not everyone in this room, but there are a lot of people we did talk to about these issues. They are not just for one group. I want to state that. It is really designed for the entire community. And these were fairly functional and also recommended to do it now if you're going to do this kind of a project. And we don't want to be going in dribs and drabs. And actually, Carl Kruger said very clearly, and he's, as you know, one of the biggest fiscal hawks in Kensington, that do it and do it right and do it once. And so I took that to heart as well. And I think we were also, and we had people telling us to take all the bid alts, and we did not. So I just want to be really clear that we were trying to balance the need for fiscal responsibility with the needs that have to happen. So I just wanted to make that.
Yeah, and you probably weren't aware that the Finance Committee voted unanimously to approve a loan. They also felt that we could take up to $500,000, which we declined to do because of the interest rate and the expense. But to give ourselves the flexibility, we were encouraged by some Finance Committee members to fund everything out of reserves, which I would have cheerfully also voted for, but saw the wisdom of retaining some flexibility in the project. And we have added, there's been some interest by community groups, by KCC, and some others requesting that if we're going to get the seismic upgrade, get the seismic upgrade that also opens up the doors, opens up the wall, and those kind of things. So there was some money that was tied to whether or not we did and that was fully funded in terms of the heating system and the nano wall. So I think we've tried to be pretty fiscally conservative while also keeping the idea that this is a once and hopefully a generation project, and that we don't ever have to come back to the taxpayers and ask them.
I'm a little bit upset about the whole thing, but, you know, it's always nice when you have a little funny in between. You have never listened to me in more than 2 years, and I find it strange that you quote me at a night when it's convenient for you. And, you know, I just, by the way, that's exactly what I said. I said, this building gets built only every 40, 50, or 60 years, and if we build it, we ought to build it well. But it's still strange that you don't listen, but when it's convenient for you, you do. By the way, the Finance Committee, our consultant said we ought to take a loan of $450,000, and you paid to get his opinion. The Finance Committee said, unanimous, $500,000, and you went for $250,000. I don't want to be the one who predicts we're going to run out of money, so I will not predict that.
Well, Carl, you're on the Finance Committee, so we listen to you every time you make a vote on the Finance Committee.
Anthony Knight, I've been away and I'm trying to do a little catch up here and plug some holes in my understanding this evening. Glass and Associate, you've mentioned them several times. What is their role in this?
They are the architects
That's what I,
and project managers.
yeah, that's what I assumed. Also, I don't have in my head how this is all to be financed at a, you know, at a high level, summary level. Hang on. You mentioned that the costs, what I've taken away this evening, are $1.6 million, give or take. So can you explain to me where this one, give me the parts, the bigger parts that add up to $1.6 million, please?
I will do my best. I think my Finance Committee folks can help. So basically, you know, you may remember we have $158,000 left on our WW grant, but we don't get that money until we spend it and then we get it back. So we've had to, for a cash flow purpose, had to take money out of our own budget up front, which will get paid back potentially by the end of this year or early next, to backfill. So $158,000 is coming from the county grant, the WW grant, okay? $465,000 is coming from the KCC. $10,000 is coming from KIC. $5,000 is coming from the Kensington Property Owners Association. The rest of the money is coming out of our own budget, and we chose to take a loan for $250,000 to give us flexibility, so not having to draw down from our reserve.
And when you say our own budget,
We have been budgeting for several years.
is it operating expenses you're taking?
No, we have a capital account.
It's a capital account, and we've been taking money, I mean, this project has a history back through 2011, so there's a full accounting about since 2011 for the expenses, and every year, the board and the Finance Committee have put some money away. I can give you a paper that was prepared last meeting.
No, I'll like it orally right now, no papers.
Okay, well,
But it's very difficult, I mean, the paper is very clear, outlines
No,
everything.
this is also quite clear, thank you. I just want, you know, you've mentioned about, what, 5 or maybe 6 major pieces, and I don't have my calculator out here, but I'll take your word for it that this winds up being 1.6 million, that it balances.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it does. I would like to make a motion that we authorize the change order to approve flooring for meeting rooms 2 and 3.
1 and 2.
I'm sorry, 1 and 2, was a mistake on the 1 and 2, with repair to the slab in room 3.
And 1.
And one if necessary.
And one if necessary. In an amount not to exceed $45,000.
I will second the motion.
Okay. Director Madavi?
Present, though I just would like to add, there's a sense of foreboding in this room. That's all.
Director Deppie?
Yes.
Director Sheraswat?
Yes.
Director Hassai?
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well. So it's 4 yeses and 1 present.
I actually feel a great sense of joy and accomplishment. I have to, 4 years ago, when Director Chuck Toombs declined to enter into the park committee meetings anymore, I cheerfully and excitedly took up the project. And since March 2015, I ran the park committee board for 2 years, and then Director Hassai, Vice President Hassai now, skillfully took it over. I have huge gratitude to all my committee members, and if I forget anybody, get me. Katie Gluck, Paula Black, Gretchen Gilfillan, Peter Conrad, Jim Watt, and Ciara Wood were wonderful and dedicated to this project. And so the day we break ground, and I appreciate all the community groups that have participated. So thank you very much. It's a very, very exciting moment. And I thank the general manager and and Ann Danforth, our legal counsel, for procuring all these documents. So thank you.
I think there's one historical component you missed, which was when you said this would cost under $1 million. And it's in the minutes, don't worry. I can produce it and give it to you, but you did promise this community, and you did tell Pat Gillette $1 million was the cap you thought we would hit.
And I appreciate the fact that we took a very measured, steady, very informed approach, and we were uninformed when we said that, and we were much better informed when we made these decisions. So I actually thought that every step of the way we were extremely detailed and thorough, and I just wanted to make that point.
And I think we listened to the community, too, who requested that we open up that wall. It would have been less expensive to do that. It would be less expensive to leave our heating system. But given that it's probably, 70 degrees today, and it's pretty cold in here now, it'll be a nice feature when it's December.
Yes, when you add up all the money that came from the community, it's really very heartwarming and important to note that there's a great amount of community support for this. It is totals, almost $500,000.
And I salute Vice President Hassai and Director Sheraswat, because I know the amount of hours that you spent doing this, and phone calls and emails, and it really shows. It's a very nice project, and it'll be nice when we meet back here. So thank you very much.
156 days, give or take 4 weeks.
And I want to second thanks, yes. Thank you very much.
I missed a sentence or two. Is there going to be an official groundbreaking?
Yes, there will be an
ceremony?
official groundbreaking ceremony, and we'll have to let you know the date because once we get word about when the abatement will start and everything will begin, we'll...
So it'll be after the abatement?
Oh, yeah.
Most likely,
well,
yes.
Yes, we'll see exactly what we need to
Okay,
do to make
so
sure that...
there will be an official...
There will be notice on the website. We'll tell
Well,
people,
yeah,
and
we'll hear
say,
about it.
Bring your hard hats.
Okay.
Come on.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to move to adjourn unless there's any further comment.
I'll second.
Okay, Director Madavi?
Aye.
Director Deppie?
Yes.
Director Sheraswat?
Yes.
Director Hassai?
Aye.
And I will also vote to adjourn. Thank you.